Hi guys, Craig here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So before I get into this week's case, I just wanted to say a wee disclaimer. These videos are only made for educational purposes and to create a discussion point around a certain topic. I never mean any disrespect to the victims or their families. So on February 14th, 2013, residents of the posh South African neighbourhood of Silverwood heard a man and a woman arguing nearby. Just a while later, they heard gunshots followed by screams of someone asking for help. One of the neighbours went in to help only to find a woman gunned down in a pool of her own blood. She was in the arms of Paralympic star Oscar Pistorius. Before I get into the details of this case, make sure that you give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And hit that bell icon to be notified every time I upload a new video. So let's begin. Oscar Leonard Carl Pistorius was born on the 22nd of November 1986. His parents thought that he was just like any other kid, but soon found out that this was far from the case. Oscar was born with a congenital defect, fibular hemilia, the absence of fibula in both of his legs. Because of this, at the age of just 11 months, Oscar had to have both of his feet amputated. Since his amputation happened before Oscar even learned to use his feet, he adapted well. He grew up without feeling like he was any different. He did pretty much everything a normal child could do, but using prosthetic legs. He walked among other kids with long pants, and it was virtually undetectable that he didn't have the lower half of his legs. Oscar's parents divorced when he was very young, and he was raised by his mother, who tried very hard not only to keep Oscar safe, but to never let him feel like he was less than anybody else. Now, most mothers do this, but if you do it too much, there's a chance that the child doesn't understand how to deal with the possibility of competition in their personal lives. But for Oscar as a teenager, it seemed to do the complete opposite. He became very competitive, and he started competing in sports with able-bodied children. One of the sports that he was most into was sprinting. He was an inspiration. A sprinter without feet. He became the person that people looked up to, and they would say, if he can run without legs, why can't I achieve my goals? In an interview, Oscar was asked about his motto. How does he do everything that he does? He replied, "You're not disabled by your disabilities you have. You're able by the abilities that you have." So throughout his life, Oscar pushed the boundaries, and it started to seem that his purpose was to prove to everyone else that he could do anything. And for a long time, he did. Oscar Pistorius went on to participate in several major sporting events. The 2004 Summer Paralympics in Athens, where he qualified as third overall in the single amputee category, despite the fact that Oscar was a double amputee. He won the gold medal at the 2005 Paralympics World Cup, and then won gold and broke records at almost every event he participated in. But the one that he's most infamous for is the 2012 Summer Olympic Games. This is when Oscar really became a household name. He was the first amputee to participate among able-bodied runners. Even though he didn't come first in the races, mainly second or third, he was the one that made headlines all over the world. The Blade Runner became a worldwide inspiration, and the cameras were now all over him. Something we've seen time and time again is when people are thrust into the spotlight out of nowhere, not all of them are able to deal and maintain the person that they were. Some of them start to break and buckle under the pressure. According to Graham Joff, South African sporting journalist, Oscar was a troubled athlete. He says that because of the heartwarming and inspirational story, Oscar Pistorius' PR team had made him virtually untouchable, adding that so many incidents have happened and they were all well documented over the last 5 or 6 years with Oscar Pistorius, but these kind of cases have disappeared, insinuating that there's a lot more going on when the cameras are off, and that Oscar doesn't have it all together like it seemed to be on the surface. This statement was similar to what Mark Batchelor, a South African soccer player who had been around Oscar a lot, had to say. He called Oscar a man who had a trip switch, saying that he was very quick to get angry and that he often caused a lot of problems. Sporting journalist Jonathan McVoy said that in 2012 he noticed how on edge Oscar was, saying that he wouldn't really eat, that he would just train constantly, drinking energy drinks to keep him awake so that he was able to run. He says that he didn't see Oscar as an organised athlete, and he even wondered if Oscar's management team was concerned about the amount of stress that he seemed to be under. One of the older incidents that showed that these statements may have truth behind them is in February of 2009, when Oscar got into a terrible speedboat accident. He was alone and he was hit with something under the water. He ended up with several broken bones in his face and even had to go through reconstructive surgery after being airlifted to the hospital. There were loads of bottles of alcohol found on the boat, but Oscar's PR team made it all go away, and even says that the injuries were minor, when they were far from it, showing that they were perfectly capable of making things disappear, even if they were serious and dangerous. That type of safety net could make anybody feel like they're untouchable. Oscar was still someone who would snap from time to time, but for a while things started to get a little better. And this is when he met Reeva Steenkamp. Reeva Steenkamp was a model and a paralegal, and she was juggling both worlds simultaneously when she met Oscar Pistorius. Oscar had just come back from the 2012 Olympics, and by November of that year the two were officially dating. As troubled as Oscar seemed to be behind closed doors, he seemed to be able to put it together in front of the cameras, and in front of Reeva. She seemed to be the positive energy that he needed around him. Anyone who knew Reeva described her as the light in the room. She was a positive, happy, nice person. She was really easy to talk to and she really listened to people. She would tell them about her day while listening about theirs. It is claimed that Reeva was the kind of person that would never hurt a fly. So the two began to be spotted everywhere together, at events and in their personal life. They seemed to be totally in love. Reeva would sing Oscar's praises whenever she was asked about him, whether it was on camera or off. But what Reeva didn't know is the man that she called her gentleman would be her undoing. Mark Batchelor gave the world a look behind the scenes of what Oscar was really like as a boyfriend. He says that he was possessive and competitive, and when he was drunk, things would get 10 times worse. He says that he even heard Oscar yelling on the phone once, saying, "I'm not scared of him, bring him down here," adding that he felt really weird about this outburst, but he just left Oscar and Reeva alone. Now this was an outburst in public, so there is a chance that things could have been worse when the pair were in private. It was later found that Oscar took the trip switch comment personally. WhatsApp messages between Oscar and Reeva revealed Reeva saying that she was scared of him sometimes because of the way that he would react whenever she mentioned her ex-boyfriends. Reeva would go on to say that he would just snap at her out of the blue. So on February 13th, 2013, Reeva had planned to go over to Oscar's home to celebrate their first Valentine's Day together. She had stopped at a shop to pick up his presents before heading over. The owner of the shop described Reeva as happy and excited. She even told him that it was her first Valentine's Day with her boyfriend. The shopkeeper wished Reeva luck and she went on her way. So the cameras at the Silver Woods gated community showed Reeva arriving. Shortly after, Oscar too. The two seemingly had a really good day. They had an early dinner together and went to bed. In the early hours of the 14th of February, neighbours claimed to have heard loud arguing and later gunshots. But they weren't actually close enough to hear anything. The main account of what happened in the home after dinner comes from Oscar Pistorius himself. His version of the story is that there was no arguing. He says that they had a really nice day and were looking forward to spending Valentine's Day together, adding that he had no idea that the day would begin the way that it did. So Oscar claims that he woke up at 3 a.m. and that the room was extremely stuffy. He felt hot, adding that Reeva was already awake and asked him, "Can't you sleep, my bubba?" To which he replied, "No, I can't." And in an attempt to cool the room down, he dragged the floor fan and positioned it next to the balcony window. He then closed the sliding doors and drew the curtains and the blinds. At this point, Oscar says that it was pitch black and he couldn't see a single thing. He then claims when he was making his way back to bed, he heard a noise coming from the bathroom. It sounded like the bathroom window had opened. He immediately thought that there was an intruder trying to climb in through the bathroom window. And since he felt vulnerable without his prosthetic legs, and he felt scared, but not scared enough to turn on the lights, Oscar then says that he thought to himself, since there is no door between him and the main bathroom, he needed to be ready for an attack. He needed to arm himself. He shuffled around the room and grabbed his 9mm pistol, the one that he kept under bed for his own protection. He then whispered to Reeva to get down and call the police, as he headed towards the bathroom. It's important to note here that Oscar claims that he's had experiences with home invasions before. In a tweet from the previous November, he tweeted saying, "There's nothing like getting home to hear the washing machine on and thinking it's an intruder, and then going into full combat mode in the pantry." Well, this combat mode kicked in again, when he heard a noise in the bathroom. It sounded like the toilet lid shutting, and this confirmed to Oscar that there was indeed someone in there. Oscar Pistorius then shot 4 bullets into the closed bathroom door. He then yelled for Reeva, trying to make sure that she was okay, but the shots left extreme ringing in his ears and he couldn't hear a thing. So Oscar then went back to the room to try to find Reeva. He couldn't see her anywhere. He even felt the curtains to check if she was hiding behind them, but she wasn't there either. He then had the revelation that if she's not anywhere in the room, could it have been her that was in the bathroom? In a state of utter panic, he ran back to the bathroom and tried to open the door. When he couldn't, he ran back to the room to put on his prosthetic legs. He then ran back to the bathroom with a cricket bat to try and break down the door. Oscar Pistorius hit the door with the cricket bat 3 times until a plank fell and he was able to climb into the partition area. He then tried to open the door through the partition, but he couldn't as the key had fallen. He eventually found the key on the floor and unlocked the door, and that's when he saw Reeva, with her head in the toilet bowl. 3 of the 4 bullets had hit her. Oscar then got Reeva out of the bathroom, carrying her and crying out, screaming for help. He then called his estate manager, asking him to come over because he had accidentally shot Reeva, thinking that she was an intruder, and then called 911. In the meantime, hearing the screams, John Strip, Oscar's neighbour, who was a doctor, ran over to the house. By this time, Oscar had picked Reeva up and brought her to the ground floor and placed her on the floor. Dr. Strip tried everything to assist her, but states that there was no sign of life coming from Reeva's body. At this point, Oscar wanted to take Reeva to the hospital in the back of his car, but the paramedics told him to wait for the ambulance. And when the ambulance arrived there, they confirmed that Reeva was already dead. That night, Oscar Pistorius was taken into police custody. And this began the trial that the whole world would watch. It was the O.J. Simpson trial of South Africa. All eyes were on Oscar Pistorius, who just kept repeating the same phrase: "I thought there was an intruder." So the trial lasted a grueling 7 months, with 50 court dates, with the public opinion swinging each time. Witnesses came in and some says that they believed Oscar truly didn't know who was in the bathroom, while others felt like it was cold-blooded murder. Throughout the trial, there were several details found to be inconsistent with Oscar's series of events. The biggest one was that there was 2 fans at the crime scene. Neither of them were plugged in. This raised questions as to whether Oscar was even a reliable witness, and it was eventually found that he wasn't. One of the main things that state lawyers brought up was the fact that Oscar was a gun enthusiast. He loved to shoot. There are countless videos of him at gun ranges, and he owned several weapons, with most of them being owned illegally. Oscar had even applied for a gun collector's license that would allow him to own even more than the 4 guns that his regular license allowed. Oscar was even being charged for firing a gun in a public place, something that he had done accidentally before, and he got a friend to take the blame so that he as an athlete wouldn't have to face the consequences and the media attention that would follow. The bullets that were used in Oscar's 9mm pistol that killed Reeva Steenkamp were black talons. They were designed to cut through human flesh and organs. So now, there was one question that stood. It wasn't whether Oscar Pistorius meant to kill, because it was clear that he did. It was just whether he meant to kill Reeva Steenkamp or not. The evidence and the witness statements were all over the place. Oscar was accused of cheating on Reeva, and that's what started the argument that made her lock herself in the bathroom, and that Oscar knew that it was Reeva he was shooting at. There were rumours that the crime scene had also been messed with. The initial lead detective, Hilton Botha, himself was replaced because he was being charged with 7 attempted murders. And well, the media overshadowed a lot of what the main issue of the trial was, which was the fact that a young woman had her whole life ahead of her and was gunned down. After a grueling trial, even though Oscar was considered an unreliable witness, the ruling still ended up in his favour. He was found not guilty of the premeditated murder of Reeva Steenkamp. Instead, he was found guilty of culpable homicide, which meant that Oscar didn't mean to kill Reeva and that it was genuinely an accident. Yet, Reeva was the one that lost her life that day. On October 21st, 2014, Oscar received a 5-year minimum sentence for killing Reeva Steenkamp, along with a 3-year suspended prison sentence for the gun incident that had happened before. The issue was that most of his sentence was to be spent under house arrest, the terms of which included that he would be allowed to go out of the house from 7 AM until noon as long as he stayed within a 20-kilometre radius. In November of 2015, the prosecution filed for an appeal that wanted the ruling overturned. They says that his intention was to kill and that he should be charged with the murder of Reeva Steenkamp. So by December, the culpable homicide ruling was overturned, and on the 6th of July 2016, his prison sentence was changed to 6 years in prison for the murder of Reeva Steenkamp, even though South African law dictated a minimum of 15 years for murder. It showed how Oscar was getting somewhat of special treatment for being a star athlete and for having a disability. Even though he had a disability, he was still able to fatally kill his girlfriend without the use of his prosthetic legs. In November of 2017, almost 3 years after Reeva was killed, Pistorius received an additional 9 years to his sentence, making it a total of 15 years. Within the next 2 years, however, in 2023, Oscar Pistorius will be eligible for parole. This whole case has shown time and time again that Oscar Pistorius had the advantage. He was someone who fatally shot at a bathroom door that ill-fated morning of February 14th, and he could possibly be walking the streets again very soon. All said and done, Reeva is remembered as a young woman that brightened up her room whenever she walked into it, and she was taken from us far too soon. So guys, that was the tragic story of the death of Reeva Steenkamp at the hands of Oscar Pistorius. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. Was this an accident or was it cold-blooded murder? Also, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more dark cases like this one. And I will see you all next time for another video. Take care, bye!